It's not a matter of orthodoxy or belief, of ideology.
He says about set of rules and then orthodoxy, belief, ideology. Some things are right or wrong. Some things are, man. And that's the ontology. When we say like exploiting a kid, no matter what are your circumstances, you can be like poor as hell. But if you take a kid, exploit them to survive yourself, it's wrong. And then you don't have any criteria whatsoever, objectively, not based on laws, culture, or a set of rules and beliefs, but objectively. There is no criteria to say that we should respect more kids than non-human animals. Only laws, only ideologies say that. Not an objective criteria shows us that a kid feels as much as a bear, as a bee. They're all sentient, and we can't compare sentience. We can't say one is more sentient than other. It's absurd. Okay, so let's do it.
But it's a matter of what works. I distinguish in this book a couple of ways to be pragmatic. The first one is in our ask. I say we don't necessarily always need to ask people to go vegan. We can also ask them to go to reduce. That's one thing. We don't always.
So it's interesting, the choice of words, because I doubt he would say, we don't have to say to people they should stop oppressing animals. That's okay telling them that they can reduce their oppression towards animals. I doubt that he would use those words if he had to, you know. But then he says, vegan and reduce. Reduce what? No, I'm not going to say what reduce, because then it will show, right, the immorality.
The second thing is we don't always need to talk about the animals. We can talk about whatever works in terms of motivations or arguments. So it can be health, it can be environment.
Don't use veganism for that. Be honest. It's about intellectual honesty. It's not that complicated. If I didn't like the meaning of vegan, I wouldn't use it. I would use another word. I would create another word. Right? And to appropriate even a bad word and think I can do better than I can give a better meaning to that word. I think it's such self-entitlement, you know, and it's so disrespectful, because those who want to live by that word, that the meaning of that word, can't, because you're like appropriating, you're distorting, you know, and it's so disrespectful, I think. It's like invading an intellectual field that's not yours, that you're taking for yourself, and it's absurd, you know, like, so yeah, you can say about health and environment, but that's about vegetarianism, that's about dieting, that's about a consumption lifestyle. Veganism is about ethics. It always has been, and even in that crazy current definition by the Vegan Society, you can see that clearly that's an ethical principle against animal exploitation. So how can you reduce it to a diet for health or environment? Would you reduce anti-racism to listening to blues, to consuming art from black people, and that's it? You're anti-racist? You know, you have to be very willing to do part of a justice movement, whatever it is. You know, you have to know that it is very uncomfortable, and especially to deal with the oppressor. I'm not punitivist at all. I don't actually believe in punitivism at all, you know. But then to avoid uncomfortable situations, to educate an oppressor, that's just bonkers.
The third is in terms of the environment in which we live. So you can try to motivate a person to change, but you can also help change their environment so that the environment facilitates change. And last and the most controversial point maybe is in the definition of veganism, where I say, like, let's not make it too hard, please.
Okay.
Let's not appropriate it, you know. If it was too hard, then don't take it, because veganism is that hard. If you think ethical consistency and a basic ethical principle is too hard, I think it's so basic and needed to be talking about. And I think it's so annoying, you know, because that's the most urgent thing to talk about, and very basic. And he says it's too hard, and then appropriates the way he thinks is best, and it's so arrogant. and I can't stand it because he's always like posing as a very empathetic person, his eyebrows are always like that. For fuck's sake, I'm going to say my heart here, honestly, because I'm tired and I think I have all the rights to express it, you know.
You say the last one you find to be the most controversial. The one I've seen most people find to be controversial is about reduction. And in the book, you do emphasize encouraging reduction as opposed to insisting on full veganism. You mention how it can be more effective for change. If we tell people that just reducing is enough, are we basically saying that factory farming and animal suffering is acceptable in moderation? And if not, what are we saying if we're not saying that?
So I think that the concern for what am I saying is kind of like an egocentric concern. You're concerned about is this the right thing? Am I doing the right thing here? But what I want to look is what is the effect with people. That's the only thing I'm interested in.
He's saying that, my God, evaluating if you're doing something right or wrong now is not good. The good thing is to predict the effect that you have on people, which you can't know. He, like most utilitarians and consequentialists, people obsessed with results and progress, they think it's more reasonable to take their personal projections of future, unless they have crystal balls. I'm not sure at this point, because frankly, but they think those projections of future, they're personal, because every projection of future is personal, right? Unless we're talking about something objective. I'm baking a cake. I know that 30 minutes from now they will be like that and so on, but I can establish a process like that about a transformation in someone's mindset, in someone's values. That actually falls into manipulation. I must offer truth and tools for people now, but what they're going to do, that's on them. And that's actually realism in a shell. Focus on the quality of the present, of what you're doing now, not what. Let the fucking future unfold in the most surprisingly good and consistent way by focusing on the consistency of what you're doing right now. Trusting the other person's capacity to change, to understand what you're saying, the urgency, the sensitivity, you know. So yeah, it pisses me off, someone talking about pragmatism and thinking that his future projections are more important than what we are doing right now. For me, it's unbelievable.
I'm not interested in am I following the rules? Am I saying something wrong? No, I'm interested in what will people do with this message. We
don't establish wrong and right because we follow rules. It's out of perception. You don't even need much intellectual capacity to see something wrong and understand it's wrong. Humans do that. Humans have that capacity. And a lot of people like himself deny that. And I think it's appalling because that's basic moral sense. That's moral agency. Because like the high intellectual agency humans have, we also have moral agency. We have some moral sense, natural instinct to understand something right and wrong many times, often. But then people who don't care much about that injustice, they will call that moralism, they will call it purity. You know, but if someone is a victim and anyone comes and say, that's absolutely wrong what you're going through, and I'm going to defend you, I bet they won't say it's moralism or purity or something. They just will be probably filled with gratitude and love, actually. Yeah, and let me say, that's the golden rule of ethics. You must put yourself in the victim's position and talk from there, not from your own savior projections of future.
We know from research that more people seem to be following up on small asks than on bigger asks. That's not just true for diet change, but that's true in general. So if you ask a person stop flying, then you might be less successful than if you tell them stop flying short distances, for instance. Okay. So that is one reason why you could...
that metaphor of flying, it fits very well with his idea of progress and so on. It's like he's talking about a career move, a career plan or something. Not a moral obligation of people to respect others. you know, just please people. Just think if he was talking about any other oppression and justice cause, exactly the way he's talking now. Please do it, you know. But you can't because they're so different. No, they're not that different. You take small steps and don't care about the urgency when things are not urgent, when things are personal, when it's about satisfaction. But when it's about justice, when it's about not making victims, act must be as immediate as possible, both to defend victims and to educate oppressors, you know, and educate them in the sense that they must stop right now. They shouldn't stop tomorrow or once a week or something absurd like that. That's not how you really change into someone who respects the other and stop victimizing them.
Use this message of reduction. I'm not saying you always have to use that message, but I think the principle that I have that trumps all the other principles is to be flexible in your approach and to adapt yourself and to see who you have in front of you and to understand that this person might require a different message and a different argument than this person.
Right.
And that is pragmatism. And I oppose.
He's talking about difference in style, you know. And I get it. Of course, I can't use the same words usually I can't, but I actually try to make the most basic kind of conversation to everyone I talk to. But of course, there will be some adaptations in the type of words I choose, but I can't compromise the message itself. Otherwise, I'm just like being a politician. I'm not only changing styles depending of who I talk to, but the message itself to please those people, accept what I'm saying, not to really pass some truthful information and urgent